Hi everybody, I'm Michael. This is a review for Too Many Have Lived. It's a Sam Spade story written in 1932. So I knew of Sam Spade before reading the story. He's mentioned in Nancy Drew's Secret of the Old Clock, and he gets referenced a lot in TV and movies, so I've seen the character a lot while growing up. Also, I've read two books based on the Maltese Falcon, which is his masterpiece. So, the first book in the Lemony Snicket All the Wrong Questions series, that's based on the Maltese Falcon. And then Anthony Horowitz wrote the Falcon's Malteser, which sort of follows the same story. That's more of a joke story than anything else, but still, it's like this guy is so famous. I've read his novel twice without even reading his novel. Yeah. So, with that said, this short story was bad. I didn't like it. I'm giving it a thumbs down. I really thought it was bad. And so I don't want to offend his like millions and millions of fans. Apparently his short stories are bad. The Maltese Falcon, great. That's a fantastic mystery novel. It's got a great movie too. But he had a short story trilogy written 2 years later, and that was it. The short stories were so bad that the author canceled the character, never wrote Sam Spade stuff again. And just reading this one short story, I can kind of tell why it was canceled forever. It's just not good. But on the other hand, I can also see why Sam Spade is a famous character. I can kind of get the sense of why he's this really famous guy, and I'll probably talk more about that at the end of my review. Let's get to the actual review. So, the setup's good. There's this guy named Gene Coiler, and he hires Sam Spade to find Eli Haven. Eli Haven has gone missing. And, Coiler has a thing for Haven's wife, so he's hoping that Sam Spade will find a way to make sure Haven never comes back home, if you dig me. So there's a lot of slang in this particular short story, a lot of 1930s slang, and it was hard to read. It was hard to understand, especially because it's all gangster slang too. So, I've got other like short stories in this book, which are a lot older and easier to read. So, like Sherlock Holmes was way easier to read than the Sam Spade story. The language is just kind of obscure. So that's not really the author's fault because the story is 80 years old, but still, it's like, Sherlock Holmes is older. I can understand that. Some Hercule Poirot stories are older. I could understand that. Edgar Allan Poe stuff is way older, and I could still understand that better than these characters talking 1930s slang. So, take that for what it's worth. I really can understand the characters at some points. So, Spade interviews the missing man's wife, and I didn't like this part at all. Spade is just openly sexist, and he's just a woman hater, and it's terrible. It's actually really jarring to see how mean he is to this woman who's done nothing wrong. It's not like she's a suspect, but he just insults her for anything and everything that comes into his mind. So, in general, he's mad because, hey, she's too cold to me. She needs to be all kissy flirty with me. I'm like, why would she need to do that? You're a total stranger. She's married. But here's the weird thing. Like, she smiles at him and says nice things twice. Both times he insults her immediately after. So, I don't know what Spade wants from this woman. And I hate to say it, but her scene is not important. It could have been cut out. She basically says what Coiler could have said, that Eli Haven is an author. He writes poetry, and he has 3 friends. That's the only important stuff she says in this entire 2 to 3 page conversation. Okay, so then Spade goes to the bookstore. And he finds out, hey, Haven just bought his own book and had it sent to this guy named Ferris. And he wrote an inscription about the good old days with the colored lights. So Spade interviews Ferris, and Ferris confirms, yeah, I met Haven Thursday. So Thursday he showed up around 3. We talked about the good old times, because he used to be working in the circus 20 or so years ago. They had some good times. They talked until midnight, and then he left, and that's basically it. And Immediately after the scene, Haven is found dead by the police. And that's where the story should really pick up. But no, it's where it really falls apart. And just the rest of the story feels like a first draft that never got edited or rewritten. And I saw a review online which said, well, the author was basically copying an earlier story that he did, and it didn't really work so well in the earlier story. Well, it doesn't work here. And because we get a bunch of surprises, which are just things that make no sense. So Coiler, remember the guy who hired Spade to... Okay, let me back up. So Spade goes to visit the three friends, the three friends of the victim, and they know him. And this is never explained how they know him. They are scared to death of Spade. And it's never explained how he knows them or what their connection is or why they're so afraid of him. And that's something which should be explained. I'm just confused as to how he relates to these people because they seem to have a history with him. And if he does have a history with them, why didn't he visit those people first? Like, why didn't he suspect these, I guess they're gangsters. Why didn't he suspect them right away? I don't know. So he comes in, and that's when Ferris comes in. Ferris has a blackmail note telling him to show up at this particular place. And Spade explains the entire thing is blackmail. And it all comes down to 1930s slang again. So colored lights refers to the term red lighting. And that is 1930s carnival slang for throwing somebody off a moving train. So Ferris threw somebody off a moving train at some point. The victim knew about it, and the victim blackmailed him for it. And then the three friends say, hey, they knew about the blackmail scheme, so they decided to also blackmail Ferris. Because, hey, why not? Why not? And so at this point, Coiler comes in with 2 armed guards, and he's got more guards in the hallway, and he says, hey, if anybody leaves this room, pop them! Just shoot them! And it's like, what is this? So Coiler is apparently now a gangster boss now? Where did that come from? And all the people who work here work for him. So all these 3 people and the 3 friends, they live in a hotel room. They're all his employees, apparently. Again, comes out of nowhere. And so that's part of the problem with this section of the book is just we've got these premises which weren't explained earlier, which come out of nowhere. It feels like it was a first draft that needed to get rewritten just to explain how these characters relate to each other. Because now he's a gangster boss, even though he wasn't a gangster boss in either of his 2 previous scenes. Now he is. Now Coiler is a gangster boss. And he says, James has only talked like twice, maybe 2 sentences at most, so we have no idea what James is like, really. So he says, hey, James, you're the culprit. They found his gun, and James apparently was tailing the victim, and he made a big mess of it. So big public show, big public mess about it. So we've got a couple of people, witnesses that can corroborate he was trailing the witness. And yeah, you know, Coiler's like, oh, I can't believe I have to turn in one of my own men. I'm like, what? Your man? But it's like, if your employee was already trailing the victim, then why did you need to hire Sam Spade to figure out where the victim is? It doesn't make sense. And then Spade steps up and he's like, yo, no, Coiler, this is another double cross. We've got a couple double crosses here. It's like, yeah, you're just trying to pin the frame on James because Ferris is your client and he's paying you to frame someone. Yeah, so Ferris is guilty and explains all the reasons why Ferris must be guilty, and some of them check out. Ferris has the best motive. Okay, well, that's a good reason to suspect him. Last person to see the victim alive. Okay, though maybe not true now that we're questioning the fact that there was a tail on the victim, right? Spade doesn't think of that. Then he's the only person who actually cared about telling the truth. So he was trying to look innocent. And he was the only person who tried to make it seem like he was friends with the victim. Again, he was trying to seem innocent. And, okay, those are good reasons, but they're wrong. Spade is forgetting he interviewed the victim's wife. The victim's wife told the truth the whole time, and, you know, she wasn't trying to make it seem like she hated her husband. And same with Coiler, with his 2 meetings. Like, he told the truth before he became this gangster out of nowhere. And then the final thing he's saying is like, well, it makes no sense that the victim would blackmail Ferris and then wait 9 hours before leaving because it was a 9 hour visit. I was like, yeah, maybe that's true, but we don't know when the blackmail happened. Nobody said the blackmail happened at the very start of the 9 hour visit. It's totally possible he didn't bring up the blackmail until like hour number 8. Make his victim sweat a little bit before bringing up the blackmail. That's totally possible. Yeah. So, and that's the end of the story, really. Ferris is like, "Hey, I want my lawyer," and Spade's like, "Fine, yeah, you'll need your lawyer, huh?" And that's it. So that's the end of the story. Very anticlimactic. So Spade didn't really do much investigation. He didn't investigate the crime scene. He only talked to the wife, he talked to Ferris, and then he talked to the 3 friends. So he talked to all the basic suspects or the main players once. That's all. Granted, it's a short story, so we didn't have time for a big long investigation. But I kind of wish he had some evidence or clever deductions. But no, he just comes up with a laundry list of reasons why, hey, you're probably suspicious, and that's it. You could probably come up with your own solution to the mystery, which pins the blame on one of the other characters. What about Coiler, the mob boss? He could have done it. Actually, that seems totally plausible to me. So it feels like the mystery solution was not well thought out. No, not well thought out. So, yeah, I don't like it. And Sam Spade, besides for the part where he's being super sexist, he doesn't really show a lot of emotion. So he's just kind of emotionless and comes off as detached and doesn't care about the case or the characters or really anything. It makes you wonder why he's even solving this mystery when he's so cool and detached. Now, I can kind of get a sense of why Sam Spade is like this popular detective, because he's supposed to be this tough guy, and he's just unfazed by anything. Like, he's always in control of the situation no matter what's happening. So he could walk into a middle of a gunfight and he'd still be the guy who's commanding everyone's attention and respect. And that's sort of what they're going for by having him be so cold and emotionless. Like I said, I think it backfired, though. In this particular case, it just made him seem like too stoic, like he didn't care at all. I felt sort of the same way about 180 Days Around the World. The main character in that was just way too stoic and emotionless. You could argue Sherlock Holmes also has that problem, that he's too emotionless at times, and it kind of detracts from the story and just causes you to wonder, why is this guy even here or doing anything? I'm sure the actor who played him in the movie, though, it's Humphrey Bogart, I believe. Famous actor, so I'm sure he did a great job of making it interesting, playing this real cool, tough guy that everyone admires. Even the criminals are afraid of him, So yeah, that's it for this short story, Too Many Have Lived. I thought it was bad. It was just bad. The entire second half, it just needed a rewrite because we introduced too many new plot elements. The mystery solution was not thought out at all. Like I said, there was a list of 6 reasons why he thinks Ferris is guilty. Only 2 of them check out. The other 4, and then the double crosses with these characters we haven't met before. That doesn't work. If you're doing a double cross, you readers need to know where the characters stand before the cross happens, not after. And so, yeah, that's also the mystery solution hinges upon the fact that red lighting is carnival slang. I don't know. No, that's, yeah. So, and like I just complained about Spade's personality too, him being too emotionless and not interested in anything except harassing this poor woman who's done nothing wrong. So, not a good story. I give it a thumbs down. My apologies to all the fans of Sam Spade who really like this character, because I know he's got millions of fans.